Hey, yo, what's good though? Soul here, and welcome back to my story mode. So, you've seen the title and you've seen the thumbnail. It is absolutely no mystery as to what we're going to be talking about today. Recently, I finally caught up on Invincible, and that show is spectacular. It's so well animated, it's so well crafted. I love that story. They follow the comic books very well, to my understanding at least. I have yet to read the comics. I'll probably visit those soon enough. I do know a lot about them though. You know what I'm saying? I'm no stranger to what's happening in what was happening in the comics for Invincible, right? But as far as the show goes, it's just so well produced. All those actors did such an amazing job. The animation, just crispy. Just a crispy show throughout, okay? I did not have a single moment where I was having a bad time with it. We'll see what happens in upcoming seasons. Again, I know a lot about the comics now, so we'll have to see what plays out from there. But either way, so obviously Invincible is a very popular show. It's gained popularity over the last couple of years. Even right after season 1, it just skyrocketed in popularity. People absolutely loved Invincible. They kind of did it dirty with what they did with the in-between break with season 2, like the first half of season 2 and the second half of season 2, where they took that really long break. Didn't need to happen, but regardless, that's not really what we're here to talk about today, right? I waited, I caught up. I want to talk about the Invincible game that's actually in development, right? A couple of weeks ago, Skybound Games, which I think kind of like owns the space for like the IP for like games and stuff like that, they announced that they were creating a AAA title game for Invincible. And that's one of those things where it's just like, yeah, that's kind of inevitable. They probably made enough money to do so. And they do have their hands on some pretty big names and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? They were responsible for The Walking Dead, which is easily one of the most popular properties a lot, like, people just generally know. You know what I'm saying? They made some of the best games for The Walking Dead you could find this day and age. And so now, I mean, obviously with, they help Telltale and stuff like that, but either way, they know what they're doing. They know Invincible, they know that universe, they're working on that AAA title game. And that's cool and that's dandy, right? However, when it comes to making games off of properties like this, it's very easy to mess that kind of thing up. It's very, very easy to mess that kind of thing up, right? There's so many shows that should have had much better games and stuff like that by now that just never got them because somebody untrustworthy got their hands on a game, or on a property rather, to make a game for it. The game came out, and now we don't get games for that property anymore. Look at Avatar, man. We've never had a good Avatar game. Are you kidding? That is absolutely ridiculous. So when it comes to Invincible, while it's not like my favorite series of all time or anything like that, it is very good and I enjoy it very much, to the point where I think it's more than fair to say that I would at least like them to handle this game with a little bit of care. Not that I'm assuming that they won't, of course, but I would want them to take like a lot of extra caution when it comes to developing this game, especially a AAA title. That's a big risk. All right, so that's what we're here to talk about. I have a little bit of a wish list here, right, of things that I do and essentially don't want to happen with this game, okay? Now, of course, this announcement was only made a couple of weeks ago. We don't even know how long ago they even greenlit the idea, let alone got into development for the game. So it's probably safe to assume that it's still very much in early development, and we probably won't see this game. If they're doing the right, making the right moves, we probably won't see this game for another like maybe 2 to 3 years, right? And that's totally fine. I'm gonna play it whenever it comes out. It's not something that, I'm gonna die without or anything like that. So, whenever it comes out, I'll keep my eye on it when they start announcing stuff for it. However, we have plenty of time before that game comes out. So while we're waiting, I have a little bit of a wish list of things that I would like to see and things that I would not like to see going into this Invincible AAA title game. You guys already know we're going to start with the goods, and I only really have one thing that I just don't want them to do, so we'll get to that at the very end. So let's start with the things that I would like to see. First and foremost, do not make this game a hallway. There's no way in hell this game can be anything less than at the very, very least, an open zone game. It doesn't have to be open world. We don't need to be going into random people's houses. It doesn't need to be this massive RPG situation where we're going into people's houses and talking to random individuals on the streets and stuff like that. It doesn't need to be that crazy. As long as it's open zone and there's stuff to do in those open zones, like, we got the city, we've got maybe a couple of worlds here and there, maybe Mars, who knows? As long as we've got something along those lines, I think we'll be okay. We just need somewhere where we can fly freely as Invincible, maybe Omni-Man, I guess. I don't really know, right? But essentially, we want to be able to have that freedom to be able to truly play as a superhero, to be able to fly around freely as Invincible. I don't think that that's that big of a request, and I feel like that's a very obvious one, which is why I put that first. That's a pretty much given, right? Who wouldn't want to fly around super speeding through the city like with Mark? You know what I'm saying? That would be crispy, prime. That's all I request for that, okay? Doesn't need to be open world. That's not really necessary. As long as it's open zone, I think we'll be okay. Next on the list, I absolutely think that we need some kind of a skill tree, right? I think we need some kind of a level up system. Again, we don't need to go too crazy with the RPG elements, but, you know, basing things off of like Spider-Man, I think it works a lot better with games like this when you have something of a skill tree and you have, you know, moves and skills that you can unlock, you know, the more you go out of your way to do side quests and main quests and level up and stuff like that, you know. Mark as Invincible doesn't really have any gadgets, so I think that the best way to utilize this would be to give him a skill tree where he can unlock, you know, shock waves and just all these crazy different punches and combos and stuff like that that he can utilize against enemies. I think that that would be the best way to approach that, considering what kind of character Mark is, right? Again, we don't even know how the combat is going to work. It doesn't need to be like RPG-ish. It doesn't need to be anything too insane, I don't think. But, you know, I imagine with Mark being a obviously much weaker Viltrumite, he's got a lot of growing to do, a lot of learning to do, and a lot of building to do. And so we want to put him in a situation where we actually feel like we are growing with Mark as we progress through whatever story they end up giving us in this AAA title game. So I would love to see a skill tree of some kind where he's unlocking moves and unlocking, you know, maybe just some quality of life stuff like faster flying or, you know, dodging and stuff like that, okay? Faster recovery times and all that good stuff. That makes sense? Good? Good. All right. Moving on. Speaking of the story, I think I would really, really appreciate it if we actually did get an original story, right? Because it's very obvious to me, even outside of like superhero games, in like anime-based games, right? The problem with a lot of these games is that they follow a story that we already know. We have absolutely no reason or need to play the game going through the story of Invincible as we know it. That is absolutely pointless. We don't need to do that. It's so easy to put these characters in a situation in which they're out of their element and we could do something different with these characters, right? Or they're given a situation thrown at them that maybe takes place in between certain seasons or certain time periods during the series, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't even need to be canon. It could be absolutely ridiculous. It doesn't matter. We need a situation in which it's something new. I don't want to play through the story of the series that I watched already. I know the story, so I would know where it ends. I would know how it goes. There's no point to that. So I really hope that they do give us a completely original story, right? That's one of the things that we love so much about the Spider-Man games, because those games give us a completely original world, completely original cast, and a completely original story. I almost said setting, but a completely original story that allows us to actually, you know, go in with mystery, like, oh, what's going on with this? You know, how they're going to utilize this aspect and stuff like that, right? It doesn't need to be like Spider-Man or anything like that, you know. Invincible only has its one world within the comic books. Spider-Man has millions of different variations and stuff like that. We don't need to switch up the Mark. I mean, we could switch universes if we want based on, you know, what the show gives us. I should probably put a spoiler alert at the beginning now that I think about it. But it doesn't need to be anything crazy, okay? All I'm saying is that an original story with an original plot where we don't actually know what's going to happen at the end and we actually have our mystery, we have our drama and stuff like that, maybe with a new cast of characters that Mark gets to meet. I think I would really appreciate that, okay? I feel like that would go a lot longer, or I feel like that would work a lot better in a lot of different aspects than just following the story of Invincible. Doesn't that sound boring to you? I mean, maybe I'm crazy, you know what I'm saying? It could still be really cool depending on how they do it, but after playing Dragon Ball Kakarot again, they don't need to do that. They really don't, in my book. So yeah, let's go ahead and give us something original. That's all I'm saying. Within this story, there's a lot of things that I would want to see. And one of the primary things that I would want to see is actual in-engine animated cutscenes and stuff like that. You know, something like Hi-Fi Rush, where, you know, you go into a certain area and you can see like they're in-engine. They're still moving in-game. So at some points, maybe if you're about to get into a fight, the camera just pans around the main character and then you're in that fight, kind of like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth maybe. Something along those lines, right? I want to be able to shift seamlessly between gameplay and story and just never miss a beat. I love it when games do stuff like that, and I feel like Invincible is a very good place to do something like that, okay? Maybe Mark throws out a quick quip or a one-liner or something like that, and then we're in the fight. It quickly switches over. That's the kind of thing that I would like to see going into this kind of thing, right? And on top of that, I want to also be involved in the cutscenes if we can help it, right? Or maybe during battles or boss battles or certain moments in the battles where we have to actually participate in the cutscene or whatever's going on with QuickTime events. I adore QuickTime events. I'm so sad that that's not a much more common thing amongst like a lot of these other recent AAA titles haven't really done that as much from what I've seen. Even Rebirth didn't really do that until like very, very late in the game for one instance, and it's kind of crazy. So yeah, let's get some QuickTime events in there, you know what I'm saying? I want a lot of instances where I don't feel the need to put down my controller, right? I play a lot of RPGs, so I know how this kind of things work. There's a lot of times where I end up putting down my controller and I'm just watching and listening, which is all good and dandy when the story is good. You could do it that way as well, but if you have the budget to do so, I would like to be involved in the cutscenes and fights as well. I would love to see situations where I'm actively needing to dodge punches in a dramatic fashion by pressing the right button. I love QuickTime events. That's a fun thing for me. Always has been. I don't see why that's not a more common thing. Let's see if we could get that popping. Would you guys mind doing that? Thank you. And then another thing that I would really, really like to see is just costumes with hella references to other characters, to maybe other stories within the Invincible universe and stuff like that, because there's just so much Invincible that there's absolutely no reason not to make more costumes, not to have a situation in which we unlock costumes. That's a big thing in superhero games I've noticed, is that people pay hella attention to the costumes, right? Now, I'm not that crazy about superheroes, I like my Spider-Man, whatever, but I'm not all that crazy about super heavy on costume details or anything like that. However, if we can help it, I would like to see a situation in which we could actually customize our costumes, or, we could at least unlock different costumes if we go through certain trials and tribulations to unlock them, and then we have our own costumes that we can wear throughout the story and stuff like that. I would really appreciate that, and there's so many costumes and references that they can make from either the show, the comic, or from other things. Fortnite, I don't know. That's crazy. Or just generally other universes within the universe of Invincible. That's a weird thing to say without context, isn't it? I'm assuming most of you that have watched this have watched Invincible. But either way, there's a lot of things that they could do with more costumes, and I would really like to see them capitalize on that. So if they could do that, that would be amazing. There is one thing I want you guys to be very wary of when developing this game, though, and that is how you go about DLC. All right, we're living in an age where I get it. Y'all got to get your money. Y'all got to get your bills. You know what I'm saying? Y'all got to get your stacks, your racks. I get it. I understand. But do not withhold little tiny bits and pieces here and there by making us pay for them as DLC when they could absolutely be in the prime story, in the base game. Do not do that, okay? Literally, I'm talking a Final Fantasy 15 situation in which very important story beats have been hand-selected and taken out and utilized as individual DLCs. Do not do that. Please. You probably will. I know how the game industry is right now. You probably will, but I'm still gonna ask, please don't do it. Please, I'm begging you. If you have a very special, episode or something like that with like Adam Eve or Omni-Man or something like that, or Alan, cool, great, if it's like, it feels like a whole separate game in of itself, just develop that as DLC, fine, I get that. But if there's prime moments where Adam Eve has to do something and leaves and we don't know where she went or why she came back or whatever, don't separate that storyline and turn it into DLC. Make it a part of the game in of itself, and then we get an idea for Adam Eve, and then we have a special episode that takes place after the main story for Adam Eve in her own situation. That makes a lot more sense to me. I know if the game does well, it's gonna get DLC. That's just how the game industry works right now. Just don't abuse that. That's really all I ask. That's it. So I will leave it at that. But that just about does it for all of my requests for the Invincible AAA game. but, you know, maybe I'm kind of crazy, you know, maybe my asks are a little too much, maybe they're too little. So that is why I'm passing it to you. You go ahead and tell me what you guys are thinking in the comment section below. Do you think that my list here is valid? Do you think that I'm, you know, making some kind of sense when it comes to making a AAA Invincible game and these are some reasonable requests? Or do you think that I'm way out of line? They're probably not even going to make anything along the lines of something that's good and I should just let them cook and maybe they'll pass, maybe they'll fail. We'll see what happens. Tell me everything that you guys are thinking in the comment section below, because you know for a fact that I'm always going to be down there with you guys. But with that, yeah, both of my watches here say that it is skedaddle o'clock, so I'm gonna go ahead and do just that. I would like to thank you guys ever so much for watching. I truly do hope you enjoyed. Do me the greatest favor of dropping a like and a comment, and consider subscribing for more content just like this here. And with that, I'm Gonzo. Thanks again, hope you enjoyed, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Do me the greatest favor, taking good ass care, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!